Time now for our political insiders, Tony May and Charlie Giroux here in the studio with us on this Tuesday. Good evening, guys.
Good to be here.
Great to have you here. Some sad news. James Brady, the former press secretary to Ronald Reagan, passed away at the age of 73. He's the man behind the Brady Bill, created a national gun background check system, grievously wounded Charlie during that 1981 assassination attempt on President Reagan. You worked in the Reagan White House. Do you know what kind of guy Brady was?
James Brady was a wonderful man, one of the most affable, witty men you'd ever want to come across, the Republican version of Tony May. He was part of Ronald Reagan's team of rivals, had worked for John Connally previously. Ronald Reagan saw his talent, picked him up. Sadly, before he had served 75 days, he was gunned down by an attempted assassination on Ronald Reagan. Interestingly, a lot of the news media, every single one of the big networks, announced that he had died in that event.
I remember
Happily,
that
was the famous Frank Reynolds, you know, let's get this right thing. Happily, he didn't pass away, but unfortunately, he was severely wounded, paralyzed for a large portion of his life and wheelchair-bound for much of it. His speech was affected. He eventually got it back. But he was honored with keeping his title as press secretary throughout the Reagan administration, despite the fact he couldn't serve, and ultimately the White House briefing room, where all the correspondents gathered with the president, is named after James Brady. His nickname was Bear, a truly lovable, wonderful man who served his country so faithfully and so well and sacrificed for it, and he'll be remembered by those who knew him as the best.
Yeah, we know he was a fighter.
He was.
That's
Definitely
for sure.
was.
You got to admire the battle that he put up for the last 20 years of his life, fighting for an issue that he had this special expertise. We could have honored him and respected him if he had just stayed home and watched TV, but he really did make a difference.
He really did. All right. Well, he will certainly be remembered. Thanks for sharing your personal side to that. Well, we're going to move now to a recent poll that just came out, and it puts Governor Corbett just 7 points away from Tom Wolf in the race for Pennsylvania governor. These numbers just coming out, but this 7-point difference is among voters who have definitely decided on a candidate, and we keep seeing these numbers shrinking and shrinking, and it's getting tighter and tighter.
It is. It takes the quote-unquote leaners out of the equation. One of the things that was interesting about the CBS poll that came out last week that showed this race tightening dramatically was that the methodology was questioned, and I think that's part of our show maybe on Sunday, Rob, because there's a lot of question about the old method and the new method. But one thing that's pretty certain at this point is that this race is tightening up even faster than Tony and I predicted. It's going to be a real horse race rather than a walkover. Governor Corbett's energy and leadership over the course of the past month are showing through, but I think also so is Tom Wolf's soft underbelly on the fact that he wants to raise people's taxes.
Okay, let's start with the point that this is a Republican poll. This firm polls for the Republican National Committee and Americans for Prosperity. But if that's true, I mean, that is true, and you should be concerned because the basic horse race shows that it's Corbett 38, Wolf 50, which is not that much different than we've seen before in the past. That's 12 points. That's the basic horse race. And the real problem that Tom Corbett has, and the part that's going to be hard to overcome, is his favorable, unfavorable ratings. Favorable, 37% of the voters see him favorably. 53% see him unfavorably, compared to 45-32 positive to negative for Tom Wolf.
What this also shows, though, is there's still some undecided, and there's still some that lean towards another candidate. So really, at this point, it seems to be anyone's game.
Not when you're at 50%.
You still have the undecided, though, who have not made a decision yet.
But if you're at 50%, all you need is one more vote to win.
Well, and additionally, Tom Wolf's support is eroding, and Tom Corbett's support is gaining. That's where you want to be in any horse race, regardless of where you start off. The more voters see, know, and learn about Tom Wolf, the less likely they're going to be to vote for him. They don't want to see another tax and spend liberal occupying the governor's mansion in Harrisburg. It's as simple as that.
All right, we'll see where it goes, guys. Thank you. And you can see our political insiders every Tuesday right here on CBS 21 News at 5:30. Sorry, Tony, I'm getting yelled at by our producer.